Hello everyone, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense and welcome back to day 2, part 2 of the Hugo Boss Canteen and Boss Bottled Buying Guide. Hope you're able to enjoy part 1. That was primarily the Canteen line of Hugo Boss fragrances. Today we're going to finish up the Boss Bottled line with 2 exceptions, and when we get to those 2 exceptions, I'll let you know just in case you're interested in purchasing them. But by and large, overall, big picture, I don't think it matters really too much in your buying decision. They are ouds, and you probably know what I'm talking about, the saffron and the aromatic oud. I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get to it. So when we return, we're going to go over the Boss Bottled line, talk a little bit about what's good, what's bad, what's beautiful, what's ugly, what's great, that and more, so stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. Yesterday we left off with, the Boss Bottled Sport. And now we're moving on up in the timeline to 2014 when one of, I think personally, one of the best fragrances that Hugo Boss and the Boss Bottled line has ever released, and that is Boss Bottled Unlimited. That's right. Beautiful white presentation with the green lettering. And in fact, if you look at the actual atomizer, you got a little bit of a green reticule there so that you know you're using Boss Bottled Unlimited. And I've mentioned this fragrance before. It's made it in a couple of lists of mine, and I have mentioned that green is kind of cool because I've often said on my channel, when you look at the presentation of a fragrance, it'll give you kind of some hints or clues of what the fragrance is actually going to be like. And in this case, the green lettering of Unlimited, the green reticule, is all indicating a fragrance that is very bright, citrusy, but on the green side. On the side of vegetal, but mostly herbaceous. This is a very herbal, but it's almost like a citrusy, fruity herbal. But it's a great combination of the two. They're blended supremely well. Very, very enjoyable fragrance. This fragrance actually is on one of those scales or spectrums that can be casually worn casually, and also can be worn at upscale events, can be dressed up very easily as well. The only person that limits you is yourself. That's the kind of ideology behind Hugo Boss Bottled Unlimited, and I really like it. Boss Bottled Unlimited features top notes of mint, violet leaf, and grapefruit, with heart notes of pineapple, rose, and cinnamon, resting on a base of cistus, sandalwood, and musk. That mint, violet leaf, and grapefruit blend to make a super fruity, super bright, citrusy open. And then you've got pineapple in the mid, and then you've got rose and cinnamon, which are typically associated with cooler weather, fall going into winter. Cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves are often in the Boss Bottled DNA, so it does carry that scent profile that you're used to. It takes it a different direction, a fresh new step, in my estimation, back in 2014 with Boss Bottled Unlimited. So you can check it out now. It's one of the better fragrances in the Boss Bottled line. Highly recommend for all occasions. Very versatile. The performance on this one, I get a good 8+ hours on, so you can't ask better for performance. And the scent cloud is extremely pleasing. The projection is about a typical 2-hour projection. Okay, so we're only moving 1 year forward to the year 2015 when we see the release of Hugo Boss The Scent. The scent features top notes of ginger, with heart notes of maninka fruit and lavender, resting on a base of leather. So relatively simple scent profile, and if you've learned anything by watching my channel, is that usually the simpler a formula is, the more elegant and the more masculine it is. Definitely the more elegant, not always the more masculine. In this case, it's both, however. So Boss Bottled The Scent, great new presentation. This is the second presentation in the Boss Bottled line. It's like the old-fashioned bottle with the metallic separators in between the glass. I really like that. It kind of reminds me of like an old-timey barrel that you would see sitting outside of a warehouse of, New York City circa 1927. Hugo Boss introduced the public to a fragrant note that they began to use in the scent line, and that is maninka fruit. Maninka fruit shows up in another fragrance shortly after this one, and it is a hit. Maninka fruit is a very dark, slightly dusty, more meaty than it is like citrusy. So it brings a very, very nice awareness to fall and autumn and winter. It really capitalizes on and improves the quality of the ginger. It propels it, and it's what creates that projection that everyone loves so much. And you've got lavender and leather, both of which are very strong, very pungent, aromatic fragrance notes, and they work well in the scent. The scent makes a great date night fragrance. It's very alluring, it's very seductive. It actually pulls your senses in. Now with those dark notes in there, including the Manenka fruit, the scent actually has pretty good performance. The smell's amazing, love the smell. The performance, however, is not necessarily what you would expect in something like this. It knocks off for me right around the 6-hour mark, which is about average, but I was looking for this fragrance to have like above average performance. 2015 was a good year for Hugo Boss to introduce some fragrances to the public that were going to be really good for fall, for cooler weather, autumn, and on into winter time. The scent is a good solid fragrance that I can recommend. I can't necessarily say it has above average performance, but you'll be pleased with how it performs if you don't set your expectations way high. Again, in 2015, Hugo Boss also released a really nice wintertime or cool weather fragrance in the form of Boss Bottled Oud. Boss Bottled Oud features top notes of citrus and apple, with heart notes of clove, saffron, labdanum, and cinnamon, resting on a base of oud, sandalwood, and cypriol. Very similar to Versace Pour Homme Oud Noir, this is a great starter oud. There's nothing super challenging about it. There's nothing that attacks your senses and beats them to death and into submission. It really is an extremely aromatic, pleasant oud. Now this particular oud came out, and then later on they released some additional ouds like the ones that I mentioned in the very beginning. There is a very nice saffron oud, and there's a really nice in a green bottle, I believe. The saffron's in like a darker red or maroon color, and in the green, like a darker green, there's the aromatic oud. Both of those, I'm assuming, I've not actually smelled them, but both of those I'm sure are very solid. I don't think that they ever made it to the US in terms of a release. Kind of hard to find online. I will put a couple links in the description below that I found. Good luck on finding those. One day I will own them, but they are definitely worth a mention. If they're anything close to the standard Boss Bottle Oud, which this is the Eau de Parfum version, there is an Eau de Toilette. I highly recommend the Eau de, just to jump straight to the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum concentration is exact same formula as the Eau de Toilette, just with obviously more concentration of oils. Now this is one that's perfect for cold weather. It's perfect for the holidays, perfect for layering clothing, because again, oud has that punch that can actually go past layered clothing and get within a decent nimbus, create that really nice projection, that really nice sillage trail. And it has the typical obligatory Hugo Boss DNA with the cloves, the apple. It's like that warm apple pie or apple strudel with a little bit of edge of that agar wood, right? So a little bit more woody, a little bit more sharp. This one is a very solid buy for an oud fragrance. If you like oud at all, if you like light ouds, this is a perfect starter oud for lighter oud lovers. And then finally we have 2016, moving one more year ahead, saw the release of a fragrance that became one of the best, most well-loved and also well-hated fragrances that Hugo Boss released in the Boss Bottle line, and that is Hugo Boss Bottled Intense. Now this is the Eau de Parfum version. The Eau de Toilette version is okay. This again, very similar to Oud, the Eau de Toilette, and the Eau de Parfum. It is the same formula, just more intense version of it. So highly recommend, if this is something you're interested in, bypass the Eau de Toilette, go straight to the Eau de Parfum. Hugo Boss Bottled Intense features top notes of orange blossom, bergamot, lemon, and apple, with heart notes of clove, cinnamon, rosewood, and geranium, resting on a base of cedarwood, olive wood, sandalwood, and vetiver. This is one of those fragrances that you can't overspray. It's just super warm, it's super inviting, it doesn't oversaturate, and it's not cloying. So it has all those attributes of a fragrance that you want to wear a lot of, and the more you spray on, the longer it lasts. And of course the Eau de Parfum does have more concentration of oils, so it does punch through in terms of longevity a little bit better than the Eau de Toilette version, though the projection is about the same. This is a fragrance that you either love it or you don't love it. What I mean by that is a lot of people smelled this and they're like, oh, that smells like cat urine. I get that. I actually, can tell my mind to smell that when I smell this, but immediately switches off because it really doesn't smell like cat urine. It's one of those, remember when I talked about fragrance dumbing? This is one of those fragrances that has been, unfortunately, the butt of a lot of fragrance dumbing by some people. And so it's gotten some bad press as a result, but This is one, I believe Jeremy Fragrance also views this highly regarded fragrance, and a lot of people do. Imagine Scents Timmy, I know he said he couldn't get his nose out of this. This is one that I cannot get enough of. This is actually my second bottle. I did have a bigger bottle. I got a smaller version so that I wouldn't use it up that quickly. Women actually love the smell of this fragrance. So if you're interested in getting compliments, you know, and pulling compliments, and especially from the opposite sex, this is a fragrance you want to own in your arsenal of compliment pullers. That is Hugo Boss Bottled Intense. Advancing in our timeline one more year to 2017, saw the release of another excellent Hugo Boss bottled fragrance. They were on a roll, and that is Hugo Boss Bottled Tonic. Boss Bottled Tonic features top notes of grapefruit, bitter orange, lemon, and apple, with heart notes of ginger, cinnamon, clove, and geranium, resting on a base of vetiver. So a little bit of an unusual formula here. You've got a lot of fruits in the top, okay, so it's bright, fruity, refreshing. In the mid, you have that typical Boss DNA. You've got cinnamon, clove, geranium, and ginger, right? So it's a really nice mix of kind of bright and warm together. This is one of those fragrances that you'd like to splash on right after shaving, a nice spritz. So it's not a typical blue fragrance, but it does have a little bit of edge of maturity to it. So it rides that fine line between youth and maturity and nails it perfectly dead center. This is a casual wear fragrance that's perfect for spring and summer. Remember Azzaro Wanted Tonic? I was very disappointed. The performance that you don't get in Azzaro Wanted Tonic, you do get in Hugo Boss Bottled Tonic. Moving another year forward into our timeline, in 2018, saw the release of another fragrance in the Scent line. So this actually was released in 2018, and that is the Scent Private Accord. The Scent Private Accord features top notes of ginger, heart notes of maninka fruit and mocha, resting on a base of cacao absolute. So similar to the Scent, this one has that same The Scent DNA, only it takes it a lot further, taking that maninka fruit, that dark, rich, dusty fruit, and making a signature scent out of it. So what happened is with the scent, people kind of complained about, you know what, I like this, but it's not dark enough, it's not rich enough, and of course the performance was lacking. And so they created the Scent Private Accord, and boom, took care of all those issues all in one and made a fantastic cool weather fragrance. Very dark, very rich. The combination of cacao or chocolate and mocha was brilliant. It was a masterstroke to the formula of this fragrance. So it took something that was already going towards being very, sexy, alluring, very deep, dark, compelling, and very multi-layered, and that made it even more so. It just like multiplied it ×2. So highly recommend this particular fragrance if you're in the market for a cool weather fragrance to break out something like this and start wearing it a lot more. I definitely am. That is Hugo Boss Bottled the Scent Private Accord. So 2019 was a very, very prolific year for Hugo Boss. It saw the release of several fragrances, one of which was along the lines of the Invictus bandwagon. They had to jump on that bandwagon at some point, right? With the release of Hugo Boss Bottled United. Boss Bottled United features top notes of Boutcou, Ozone, and Blood Orange, with heart notes of spearmint, peppermint, and orris, resting on a base of vetiver, patchouli, and cashmere. Just nice citruses in the open there, but also gives it like a rich, meaty feel with that blood orange. You've got two kinds of mints in here to make it super refreshing. You got spearmint and peppermint. Basically, what it ends up being in United is it ends up being very, very Invictus-like. Mont Blanc Legend Spirit and United are almost interchangeable because they're both, again, very much Invictus-y. They managed to infuse the Boss DNA into an Invictus-like fragrance. So if you're a fan of Invictus and you do like the Boss DNA, this is kind of a nice mix of that. So I'm not being negative. There's a lot of clones of popular men's fragrance. Paco Rabanne Invictus just happens to be one of them. As such, it's a casual wear fragrance. It's great for warmer weather, spring and summer primarily. This is a nice high heat fragrance. It's just a good all-around kick-around fragrance. There's nothing supremely great that can be said about this. It has average performance. The smell is pretty good to average for an Invictus kind of like, it's not a clone. I would be safe to say that it's an inspired by type fragrance. So if you like those attributes, you might want to check out United. 2019 also saw the release of another The Scent Divergent fragrance. This is the last The Scent release that we've been able to get our hands on, and that is the Scent Absolute. Boss bottled the Scent Absolute from Bruno Jovanovic. Features top notes of ginger, heart notes of maninka fruit and mandia root, resting in a base of vetiver. Bruno Jovanovic perfumer took what was already well established in the scent and the scent private accord, and even stretched it 1 mile further with the Scent Absolute. I really have trouble taking private accord and Absolute and figuring out which is my favorite. Now that's easy for a lot of people because they like chocolate more, or if they like a little bit lighter. Now this is a little bit lighter because you don't have that cacao power, the cacao poof or punch that's in private accord, but I absolutely love it. It basically takes it and dresses it up just a little bit. I would say if you had to compare the two, private accord is on the casual side and Absolute is on the little bit more formal side. Now it can be worn in both arenas, both casually and formally, and you'll be just fine with each. But this one is just a little bit cleaner of that, private accord DNA, the Boss bottled the Scent DNA. So it takes that private accord, it continues it, but it refines it just a little bit, refines it and cleans it up. And I think that's why typically when I compare the two, I usually end up liking Absolute a little bit better, but they're very, almost unilaterally loved and appreciated. If you don't have this one or both of them, I highly recommend. They definitely belong in your cold weather rotation. As I've mentioned before, the year 2019 was a boomer for Hugo Boss fragrances, at least on the men's fragrance side. It also saw the release of Hugo Boss Bottled Infinite. Hugo Boss Bottled Infinite was created by Annick Minardo, featuring top notes of apple, tangerine, cinnamon, and sage, with heart notes of patchouli, rosemary, and lavender, resting on a base of sandalwood and olive wood. Boss Bottled Infinite is an eau de parfum concentration, and it really makes use of those darker, richer concentration of oils. Even though it is the color blue, a really kind of purple shade, it is not a typical blue fragrance. I really enjoy Boss Bottled Infinite. It is one of the better, it's really right up there with Unlimited, maybe just a step further than Unlimited. It packs a really good punch, again making use of those concentration of oils to add better longevity and a really good scent bubble. Which is no surprise coming from Annick Minardo. She's one of my favorite female perfumists. She did an incredible job on Infinite. Whereas the concept fragrance of Unlimited means that you only limit yourself, Infinite is when you unlock that potential and that capability in yourself, to where when you see all of those prospects, they are of infinite variety and infinite possibility. So this kind of fragrance, it is a mood booster, it is a confidence booster. When I'm not feeling all that great and I have to do something that I've never done before, maybe for the first time, and I've got that, trepidation or that fear, spraying your fragrance like this on, anything that can give you just the slightest bit of edge can be your tipping point between success or feedback. I don't believe in failure, only feedback, right? So this is great fragrance here. I highly recommend making really good use of it. It is another one of those that rides the fine line between casual and formal. It is comfortable in both hats. This fragrance is best utilized or maximized in spring and summer, but it's one of those year-round signature scent worthy fragrances. Boss Bottled Infinite. 2019 saw two more releases that I don't have, and that's the ouds that I mentioned, the saffron oud and the aromatic oud. They released another fragrance that ended up being one of my favorite of the Boss Bottled line, if not my favorite, and that is Hugo Boss Bottled Absolute. Boss Bottled Absolute was also created by Annick Minardo, featuring top notes of bergamot, apple, and plum, with heart notes of cinnamon and cashmere wood, resting on a base of woods and musk. So in the Boss Bottled formula, anytime you hear cashmerein or cashmere wood, it is cashmerein. It's typically called an aroma chemical that is meant to mimic the smell of cashmere. Cashmere is a very luxurious smell, cashmere wood. It's not an actual cashmere wood. Again, it's a synthetic, but it smells extremely inviting and warm. The best way that I can describe cashmere is like that feeling you get when you step outside, or step inside rather, from being outside in the cold, right up to a very warm and inviting fire, and your best friend hands you something warm to drink. It's that warm, inviting, open sensation and feeling. Cashmere actually lends that to this fragrance. Created by Anique Minardo, just like Infinite was. This is a fantastic cooler weather fragrance. Now this is one that is riding that fine line between cooler and warmer weather, so it's a great fall or transitional fragrance as well when you want to move from blue fragrances from summertime into fall and autumn, getting ready for cold winter. And it is extremely accessible, very versatile. Another one in my book that is signature scent worthy. Have you noticed that there were several years that Hugo Boss kind of created some stinkers in a way? And when I say that, I just mean like fragrances that didn't have that great of performance. The smell wasn't anything to write home about. It was like 2013 to 2016, 2017 maybe. But here in the last few years, they've really got it together. They know what they're doing. They've hired some amazing perfumists to create their works. And 2020 was not the bang up year that 2019 was, but it did bring a really good release in Boss Bottled Eau de Parfum. Boss Bottled Parfum was created by Honorine Blanc, with top notes of bergamot, apple, clary sage, and Madagascan black pepper, with heart notes of cinnamon, green cardamom, chestnut, nutmeg, and sage, resting on a base of vetiver, musk, leather, sandalwood, and cedar. So Honorine Blanc created this fragrance, did an incredible job. This fragrance carries the similar DNA as does the scent Private Accord, the scent Absolute, Boss Bottled Absolute, Infinite, and this one. They all kind of belong in that category of fragrances that, in my opinion, you should own. If you don't own them, you'd be doing yourself a favor by adding them to your cool weather collection. Of course, Infinite can also be worn in spring and summer as well. But they really have that Boss Bottled DNA, finely refined and curated, and they've done it exactly right. And this is no exception. The difference in presentation is got the Boss on the top of the bottle, you know. It's got the gold cap. The presentation is otherwise exactly the same as the other Boss Bottle line. So this is a great formal wear or upscale event fragrance as well as it is casual. Now the price on this one is still kind of high because it's relatively new. It is a 2020 release, so you might want to wait until it hits discounters before you spend the kind of money on it that they're asking right now. But if you are a completionist or you just got to have it, Macy's, Nordstrom, you know, those retail outlets like that. It's almost like the Boss Bottled formula has come full circle. Remember Boss number 6 or the original Boss Bottled? How many fragrance notes were in it? And then we got simple and simple, more elegant, more refined, and more masculine. And then we went right back to having all those notes in it again. But the way this one is curated and formulated is elegance and simple masculinity. Really, really enjoy this. Actually, the more that I wear this, the more that I really like it. So I'm glad that they kind of return to their roots a little bit. But it is a fantastic fragrance. I highly recommend adding it to your collection once it reaches discounters. Well guys, that's it in a nutshell. That is the end of part 2 of the Hugo Boss Canteen and Boss Bottled Buyer's Guide. Now this wasn't meant to be like an encyclopedic event, so it wasn't something that I just wanted to throw a ton of information at you. I just wanted to kind of show you the best of in terms of the Canteen bottles and the Boss Bottle line, just in case you were wondering, well, what's the best of, you know? You're looking at 22 different fragrances. They can't all be fantastic. They can't all be bad. So in the event that you want to make purchase of any of these, I hope I've helped you out a little bit, at least narrow down which ones that you might actually like. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching today. As always, thank you so much for your support of my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.